Welcome, everybody. I'm on with Stephen Roberts. I'm fascinated to learn his story, and I think you will too. Welcome to the program, Stephen, and let's get to it. Let's dive into it. Thanks. Yeah, when I read kind of about your work, and I've seen some of I haven't seen any of the films that you were in yet. I have seen some of the trailers, especially the new one that's about to come out, River Road. It looks very interesting. You play a sweetheart of a character, somebody that you would just love to invite home and have deep conversations about spirituality with. So
Yeah.
I guess let's kick it off there with River Road. Do we know when it's coming out and how can people see it?
Yeah, I've got just one second here. There are some dates that Rob, that's the director and the producer of the show. Just one second here. I'll find those for
Awesome.
you. We have, where is it? So just take a second.
No, no worries.
Yeah,
And it's
so October 1st through October 7th, Los Angeles, California, at Lumiere Cinema at the Music Hall. October 1st in Cincinnati, Woodward Theater. October 3rd, Portland, Clinton Street Theater. October 16th, now it's in Canada, so Victoria, BC. October 19th, Vancouver. And I think that'll be updated. I think there might be some more dates on there right now. It's going to be updated as time goes by here. So
awesome. And we'll post a link right below the video. So click on the description and then you'll get to see a link so you can see the dates and see where it's next to you. Yeah,
perfect.
that's very cool. Exciting. Another movie, another Leo nomination and a win.
Mm,
Getting back to that movie and kind of looking through the Rolodex and seeing the types of characters that you tend to play, again, based on my limited experience so far, you're playing what I guess would characterize as gritty characters. Is that seems to be what you're drawn into, or is this what you get asked to play?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think especially like with independent projects, I'm always looking for the challenge. Like when I read something, for me it's like it always comes down to story. And when I read something and kind of connect with a character and feel like I can really offer it something, um, then I'm all in.
Mhm.
But I think I don't know. I don't really. I try and kind of find, I guess, like something to connect with that isn't gritty, that isn't, and I think like with Fresno, that's the character's name. He had a certain ethic to being a drug dealer, and he didn't cut any of his stuff with fentanyl. And so I'm like I've worked on the east side, or I worked for a very long time on the Vancouver east side in a homeless shelter, and so I saw a lot of the on the front line. I saw a lot of the fentanyl epidemic that was happening, and so I kind of like the idea of playing a dealer with those kind of ethics. It just kind of appealed to me. Also, I kind of grew up a little rough, and so it was one of those things where I felt like I felt like I understood him. I felt like I had something to offer, and I was interested to explore that. Yeah. Does
No,
that
it's
answer that? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it does. And again, it's the right answer from an acting perspective. You want to be able to be challenged, and you want to be able to find something in the character and never judge, right? So you never said that you judge Fresno. You found something in him that kind of became your rock on which you built the foundation. It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. Yeah. Um, you've mentioned, and I was going to get into your background, so I'm glad you brought it up. Growing up and having not the easiest childhood, and I it's a strange way of asking of how that shaped who you are because it shaped who you are in every way. But what do you see now that it's been a while and you're an adult? What things are still sticking with you from that formative time?
Well, that is a really good question. Um, I think I'm a bit of an open book right now because I've started or I'm like writing a memoir, and
Yeah.
I know I realized you're also a writer. You write poetry. I'm sure you write a lot more than that as well,
Mhm.
and you have that kind of experience. You write a memoir, and you just kind of become open to discussing your story a bit more, and I think what stuck with me is um, and this was like I kind of moved on from working with the homeless on the east side and kind of being of service in certain ways that I would get up and just do it for hours out of the day. Like, and what I've realized is as a storyteller, I think I have a stronger ability to serve people, um, and kind of contribute something to the world because of where I come from,
Mhm.
because of my voice, and um, that's one of the things that has stuck with me is I just feel the need to be of service to others. Like that's whether it's story, whether it's and I know that's it's becoming like a total cliche kind of term that people use, but I really do. What changed the direction of my life, what truly changed my life, is when I learned to be of service to other people. When I was really in a horrible place, coming off the street and whatnot, there were a few young men in a recovery house that I went to, and they would just they would take me for coffee, they would take me to meetings, they would talk about things like feelings, like what are you feeling, and you know they gave me kind of this ability to slowly take down the walls of keeping myself safe all the time, and really just learn how to connect with somebody. um and what's really stuck with me over the years is like I want to give that to people as much as I possibly can. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning. Even kind of coming here and like wanting to, how can I come on Ellen's show and just like serve Ellen and try and give Ellen the best experience possible. Like that is kind of, when my perspectives, even writing this book and whatnot, and and picking the roles I'm doing, is like how can I really be of service? Like how can this is, how can I not make this just about me? you know so uh that's what I found is just and I realized, like, when you're on set, or like you're doing this kind of, you live this kind of lifestyle, and it just I keep very important things in perspective. I try to constantly. I mean, I become complacent. I'm learning, the craft just like anybody else. And I got into this a lot later than people that have been studying it since they were a kid. But I'm just always trying to set tangible goals for myself that I can reach, and then I just write out another list and I try and reach those goals, and I just kind of keep moving forward. But in those goals, it's all about serving the people that are in my life. Does that
Mhm.
answer? I feel like I got a little sidetracked, but
Well, first of all, that's kind of what the show is. It's all about tangents and sidetracks, and I think that's where the most interesting conversations exist. But it answers it perfectly because I I completely understand it, and it's I actually think it's good that it's starting to become so well known that it's getting to be a little bit of a cliche in terms of service to others and servitude, is because we have more people thinking and talking about it, and I want that, because the
mm,
more of that, the better the world is going to be. And I feel certain elements of the same. It's I don't feel my day is complete unless I did something that helps somebody, um, in whatever way it is. And you've mentioned, poetry. I used to do a bunch of memes or write poetry, or now there are some shows that I love, and I create some designs, and I put them on mugs and T-shirts and whatever that brightens up somebody's day. I was speaking to a person today that I've never met. It's a person who's seen some of the interviews that I have done from a show, Canadian show that you may know, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, a Hallmark
mm,
channel. So beautiful show, all heart, all service to others, and the community of people around it. They're healed by that. and people are going through very traumatic life experiences, and they're healed by that because there is something that's there to service them, as opposed to being self-serving. So I think that that answers it perfectly, and I'm very happy that you mentioned it, because it also dives into your acting style. How can I serve this role? It's not about me, and this is why, in some of the things I read about you, this is why, if you have to shave your head on screen, you're going to do it, because that's what is needed for the character. If you have to, lose weight, if you have to gain weight, if you have to be around scorpions and snakes, if you have to, carry people through the cold, you're going to do it, because it's not about you. It's about your craft. It's about the project. It makes perfect sense.
Great.
Very cool. And when I was reading about you, that's the part that kind of drew me to it, is that appreciation for somebody who just wants to do the right thing and wants to be fully present in that experience, whatever it is. That, big kudos and appreciation to you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, not at all.
I wanted to bring up one of my favorite people who is also influential in your life, Robin Williams. Love Robin. Unfortunately, never had a chance to meet him. Never had a chance to interview him, which is sad. I do have kind of a spiritual connection, not to him, that we can talk about later. But I read about your story. Can you please tell us more about it?
Yeah. I've told this. I've been on. I've been doing a couple podcasts lately, and it's given me some time to reflect on it myself. And yeah, it was. I'd like just started acting. I was I think a few weeks in, and I would go to these 12-step meetings, and at the time they were to support my sister. She kind of had a pretty rough time herself growing up, and so I ended up going, and first I'll say this, like I don't know why he was there. It could have been to support a loved one. I know maybe he had some issues with that. That's not my place to comment on that. But yeah, I went to this candlelit meeting, and it kind of like word had kind of gotten out to my family and whatnot a little bit that I was going to pursue acting. And like when you come from where I come from, it's kind of one of those things where like everyone starts talking about it. Oh, and they're so happy, because at the time I was like, it was like I was pursuing being an MMA fighter. And then this acting thing just kind of randomly showed up. And so my sister was like so excited that I was going to become an actor. But anyways, I go to this meeting to support her, and I walk in and I sit down, and it's candlelit. And so the lights, like it's pretty dark in there, but you can kind of make out people's faces and whatnot. And so I kind of see my sister, and she's chairing the meeting, so she's up front, and I just kind of come in and sit down. She sees me, and she waves, and then she starts pointing like beside me, and I kind of look at her, and I didn't really see what she was pointing at. And then I looked like right beside me, like a seat over, and it was Robin Williams, of all people. It's just, yeah, I know. So they have like these half times, like where they like go out and like smoke cigarettes and stuff. And so we were out there, and my sister, like life has not been easy to her in ways. And so she actually runs up to Robin, and she's like, "You're my biggest fan." And Robin's like, "I am your biggest fan." And he gives her a hug. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, wow, this guy is like, that's a, even at the time, and I wasn't the same person back then, but I was like, that's a really cool thing he did. That's a really nice thing he did. And she's like, "Oh, you got to meet my brother. My brother's an actor." And so he like comes over, and we shake hands, and we kind of chat a bit. And then we all go inside, and we like finish off the meeting, and then we're socializing after the meeting in the same like kind of smoking area outside, and we all end up going to this coffee shop just a few blocks away. So that was on like Main and 12th, I believe. And so we're on like Main and 12th and kind of socializing, and people, they're recognizing that it's Robin as well, like as we walk by and stuff. So he like kind of walks like 2 blocks, and all of a sudden this like crowd of people he's with gets bigger and bigger, and So anyways, we're like having coffee, and he just, me and him got to talking, and he's like, oh, so you're an actor. Well, what are you working on? And at the time, I was in this class. I wasn't really excited about being in the class I was in, and I didn't really like it that much. Um, and ironically, I was working on a scene from Good Will Hunting. So he's like, what are you working on? I'm like, and I pull this scene, I show it to him, and I think I turned like really red. Um, and he's like, yeah, I think I know the scene. And he's like, well, you want to go work on it? And I'm like, well, I'd be an idiot if I said no. So okay. So we ended up going like a couple blocks further up Main, and there's you take a left in a couple blocks, and there's like another couple blocks, and there's like a park. So we went to this park. And like, like when you're acting, like time flies. So people ask me, how long was it and stuff. And when you're like, especially when you're new, you get into the moment, I have no idea. But it felt like about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so that he was coaching me. And I said this before, it was something about just his softness and his playful side that really kind of took down my guard. Because at the time, like I was really into the MMA, and I was, kind of just pounding weights, I was kind of trying to fix things all the wrong ways, just outside of myself, and so, but he just wasn't fazed by it. Like he would just come up and like kind of shake me and be like, have fun, and he kept saying, as well, like I've said before, like he just kept saying, you're meant for this, you were meant for this, you were meant for this. And then at the end of it, he suggested that I take it seriously. And I did. I remember like I went home, and I remember being on the bus, and it was just that passion that I finally found. Like it was just that thing that I cared about more, I think, than things that were self-destructive. And it was that thing, is like, man, if he's saying I can do this, and I like just started acting, and then I all of a sudden am like in front of Robin Williams, I should probably give this an honest go, and I did. And there's been plenty of times, as like in the industry, it's like, it's not always the best actor that gets the job, and I train, I kind of taken that drive that I learned in like MMA, and I train like that. Like every audition, like I treat it like a fight. I treat it like I'm gonna throw everything I have at it, and there's been lots of times that people are like, oh, you're too intense, you're too this, too that, too short, too tall, too fat, too skinny, there's just always something. And I just remember that he told me that I could do this. So I don't even, just, if Robin says I can do it, I'm not that worried about what you think, So yeah, he definitely, I can say that he definitely changed the direction of my life for sure. Just with that. And I've, even yesterday I found this like video, and it was him talking live on stage, talking in interviews about like characters and stuff he's playing. And even he had this to be of service mentality to better the world, to contribute. And I find it interesting that now I'm at this place where, like, I've just like scratched the surface. I'm like, to compare myself to a guy like that would be absurd. But I think that, even if, and I've talked about this before, but even if, say I never booked anything, I never won any awards, I never had like a stack of nominations or anything like that, even if just the connection, the vulnerability I got from pursuing the craft, the relationship that I was able to build with myself. And as you know, that's kind of, the journey of an actor, I think, and that would have been worth it, let alone anything else that's been great to happen. But just that, taking that direction in life, is priceless, and so yeah, anyways, that's the story about Robin Williams. Yes.
There are so many things we can just talk and have a whole show about that encounter, but I just wanted to pick a few things out and dive into those. But I think for all the people who don't think that we are being guided, that there are angels among us, that things happen for a reason, and that the universe really assists you in your journey. I want you to ponder on this. A young man decides that he was going to become an actor, and he was trying to find a footing in his life. He's taken an acting class in which he's breakdown, and the scene that he's studying is from Good Will Hunting. He meets Robin Williams, and Robin Williams spends an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is, working with him on that scene, encouraging him to become an actor and changing his life. Tell me that things don't happen for a reason. If this is not one of those indications, I'm not sure what else would be. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I think it's a good perspective. Yeah.
And it's the encouraging words that he said, right? So it's, you're meant to do this, you can do this, and let your guard down, and the example of his softness, so important. And I completely agree with you that no matter what, it already changed your life. No matter what path you would have you would have taken after that, it would have changed your life for the better. And what a legacy that Robin left, and what service he has given to others like yourself. It's it's he was one of a kind, and unique and beautiful, and my own little way, which many people don't believe in this stuff, but sometimes I believe in past lives. I believe in other lives. I believe in reincarnation. And I've had instances where, for whatever reason, I would just tune into to something, and I would pull information from the spirit that I have no way of knowing. And when Robin died, shortly after that, I felt fully like he came to visit. And my language, my mannerisms, everything changed, and it was just his speed. And he was talking, and he was emotional, and then he said his thing, and then he left. And I was left there in amazement. Unfortunately, I didn't write any of what he said down, but he was, I know what I feel like, and this was completely Robin. And I am not that good where I can just jump into Robin and be Robin. It doesn't work that way. It was something more than that. So that's the connection to Robin that I'll always carry, and that changed my life. So I'm so happy that you had a chance to meet him, and he had that effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's my tangent. The letting the guard down. I want to talk to you a little bit about that from an acting perspective. Um, I'm an empath, and anywhere that I go, I get affected by the energy, and I get affected by the people around me. Going to Walmart for me is a big deal, because half an hour in Walmart, I come back, I need to I need to cleanse myself, because all of a sudden I'm angry, and I'm anxious, and all of these emotions and things that were not there before, that I have to get rid of, because that's not me. So I go through all of my protections and other mechanisms. From an acting perspective, that made me guarded, because that naturally kind of put that wall. And even though I am very self-aware and very empathetic, I got used to building that block. And I went to one of the workshops with a casting director, and she said, "You're guarded. I can't see through you." I'm like, "Listen, I'm answering all of your questions. I'm answering them honestly." And she's like, "Yeah, but there's a wall," and it pissed me off, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So the wall finally came down when I took a Meisner class. I took a Meisner and movements and some of the other things, and then all of a sudden I started feeling free. And then my acting choices were not thinking anymore. It was whatever I was feeling in the moment. And it became completely different. So I'm thankful to that casting director for pissing me off long enough for me to actually make a change, and to let all of that drop, and just to be present. There are flies flying around me. I don't know why. But anyway, that guardedness, I think, is understandable, and where you came from and your upbringing and all the things that you had to deal with when you were younger is totally understandable. I'm so happy that you were able to kind of let that go, because you as an actor have grown tremendously because of it.
Mm, mm. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So what, I know you've mentioned this, you're driven by servitude to others, but in terms of your acting career right now, so you've done great work already. You've done a lot of work in terms of, you know, technically speaking, right? So IMDb, you have 23 credits, but those are, real legit projects. You have nominations, you have Leo awards. What's next? What do you see as the next thing you want to tackle as you continue to grow?
Well, I mean, I want to. That's an interesting, like, when I like that you started talking a bit about like universal law and whatnot, and
Yeah.
and I think I'm going in the direction that I'm supposed to be going, and
Mhm.
I feel like when I try and control that direction, when I have like this, I mean, be prepared. Like right now I'm like in transitioning to like going to the States and whatnot, and
Mhm.
there's certain things like you take, I think, calculated risks. Um, but one thing is I don't really know what's next, and I find that's the most exciting. Like when I start to think about the role that I don't even know about yet, but I know there's one there that someone's whispering about, because I mean most of the stuff I booked, like honestly, they came out of nowhere. Like the TV stuff, yeah, like, but most of the films, like the leads I booked lately that I've been nominated for, I just get a phone call, and it's like a friend that's been cast in something,
Yeah.
and uh, and that friend just tells the director like, hey, I know a guy, and that's happened more than once, and so I end up auditioning in kind of an odd setting that you don't usually audition in like a friend's kitchen, or and I just go for it. The thing is I got into this really late. Like I started when I was like 26, 27. I don't even think I like booked anything. I think it was like a short film in like 2012, and then in 15 I got like Romeo Section, another couple TV shows, I'm really, but I got into this with the intention of like I want to work with the best, and that has not changed. I got into this. I remember, um, a lot of the movies I watched, like growing up in foster care and all over the place and on and off the street and whatnot. Those movies that I watched in the '90s, they would just bring me somewhere where I would witness that hero's journey and I would become inspired. And those movies taught me that no matter what you're going through, there can be a resolution. You can succeed. And the thing is like as soon as I just believe that I have to keep going in the direction that I'm being led, by that force that you're kind of talking about. And so I'm open to everything. I'll read for anything. Like there was a time when I was like, I don't want to read for this, I don't want to read for that. Like, but I'll read for anything, because I also think, Patch Adams, you watch Patch Adams, like that was a movie that I watched, and I remember being a very angry homeless teenager and having some tears watching that movie. And it, no matter what I was going through, no matter what had happened, I would, there was some magic that I would experience watching these stories, and so I don't want to, I don't know, like I also love doing comedy. Like it's a side that people don't usually see of me, but I really enjoy comedy. And most of my favorite actors are like, I mean, some of them are, you know, come from a comedy background, and I just, whatever comes in the door, I treat it like it's going to be the most important thing. Like how can I best serve this audition? And I just keep moving forward. And I think, something that I don't even know about yet is in the works, and that just excites me. That excites me for every role that comes in the door. Every time you get a new breakdown, that is just exciting to me. And just in that state of movement, in that state of inaction, that's where I'm happiest. It's, and when I'm writing, like that's another thing too, is if I'm writing, like most of the things in my life are going like fairly smoothly because I'm
Mhm.
getting my creative fix. You know what I mean? I'm getting that, I have that outlet, and it's the same thing. Like what's next is I don't want to put that in a box, because I don't know, for one.
Yeah.
I have some ideas and whatnot. I've got some things in the works, but I don't want to limit myself. But if I just think about, like, hey, like, there's an even better part than this that someone's whispering about right now, someone's talking about, someone's making right now, and that role is perfect for me. And as long as I'm focused on that, I think I'm open to anything that's going to come my way. So that's, I think that's an important question. I appreciate it, because it gets me to, like, remind myself of this too. It's not like I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, I'm just like but it really forces me to be, to keep that kind of state of mind. Yeah.
It's the right state of mind, right? Because when we're talking law of attraction, or we're talking on the scientific end of it, quantum physics, it all deals with the same thing: is you cannot be in the known, you have to be in the unknown, and the
Hmm.
unknown is where the magic happens, and that's where you are. You're open. You're open. You're welcoming, and then you're ready to accept it and do your best with it. So it's perfect. The only thing that I would add to that is that all my life I've been really good, ever since I was a kid and before I could understand all of it. I was really good at manifesting, and I didn't even know those words. I just knew, hey, that looks like I want to do that, and then all of a sudden it would happen. Like, things would just line up, and I remember as a kid thinking, how did that work? Why did that work? What did I do? Because that's weird. Like, I'm looking at that stadium thinking, oh, that's cool. Then a coach comes in saying, hey, do you want to take a fencing class? Yes. It's at that stadium. Like, things just kind of worked out until I realized what I was doing, and how it works, and what the mechanics are. But what I've seen is that when I leave everything just open to the universe and saying, hey, bring whatever, I'm open, um, it doesn't quite work. What the more specific I got, without telling the universe what to do, I just said, hey, this is what I would like to experience next, or this is the type of job that I'm looking for. Not saying when is it, not saying where is it, not saying at this corporation only, that's the job that I want to get, right? Or not the specific role, but saying, hey, this is the next thing I want to experience, and get kind of very zeroed in on that and what it feels like, and then let it go and let the universe dictate and decide what works. I
Hmm.
found that works better. And so
Yeah.
take that for what it is and use it if you choose to.
Yeah. 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 I like that. I mean, I think I have my fiance
Mhm.
is something that, because I think for, the universal law, it's a fairly new thing to me. Like, it's a fairly, it's not that I wasn't open to it before. I think I just didn't understand enough about it. And one of the things that has helped is, my fiance, she has this way of, like, her perspective on it. Like, it is not without work that I think you can manifest something. You know what I mean? It is not without work. Like, when I work as hard as I possibly can, when I'm like setting goals, I'm pushing myself in every which way. If I'm like, oh, I want to be the lead of a series, I have to make sure that I'm putting in that work that can handle that workload. And
Yep.
then I think the universe will kind of just nudge you and just give you that extra little something, uh, to make that happen. Like, even with, like, a lot of these, films, I like the independents I've, like, chosen, and or that I've been lucky enough to come my way. I made sure that I would be able to do the best job that I possibly can, and that was just, running lines, as much as possible in a day, so I don't even have to think about them. Understanding that story, uh, understanding that story from beginning to end, in an entire film. Where am I coming from, where am I going, like, what am I learning, like, scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, and having that mapped out, and then discussing with the director, and as you say, the specificity of it, the getting as specific as I can with the scene, and watching masterful actors. Like, I think my favorite, I know my favorite actor is Gary Oldman. He's just like, everything that guy does is like his focus and his specificity in his work. It inspires me. It inspires me. There's so many subtleties. There's like, well, there's a lot of people too. I've talked to them. They're like, well, he's just being Gary. No, he's not just being. He's being Gary under these incredible circumstances in these stories, or like all these prosthetics. He's able to like just be himself. There's like a fire and an energy to his work that I love and I relate to. So when I watch him work, it's just I'm striving to be that good one day. Like where like if someone casts me in the lead, they want to make sure it's got looks like that last little thing, you know what I mean? Like, but it's building a craft where you can like come to the table with that technique and be like, this is the shot we're in, this is the medium we're in the script we're here, we need to get here. And sometimes that's like way out of sequence, like, right? So you have to like do as much work as possible just to know that story. And that's the thing is like, as an actor like this, like what I've done so far, honestly, it's a training. These Vancouver Indies have been a training ground for me, a training ground to see like, okay, where am I at? And, what do I need to learn? And what do I need to temper? And what do I need to build? And where do I want to go? And that's the thing is like, I only now feel like I'm actually able to carry a lead role, to a place where I can come to the table with confidence. And when I take notes, when I and even if the director is like, no, you're way off, not to take that personally. That's got nothing to do with, okay, so this is what we're gonna do with that. Fantastic. And that's the thing too, is like every great actor, you watch them. I study like a lot of the SEG interviews, a lot of those, you probably watch those yourself. You learn so much from them. And it's that attitude of like, whatever my director wants, they got, and I really believe in that. I believe in that, just coming at it with 100%. I'm not, and that's the thing is like, I'm not a TikTok star, like anything like that. I'm a person, like, I love movies. Like, I just love stories and movies, and I just want to be able to tell stories with the best people possible. And that's what I feel like I'm still, I'm training for, but I'm at the ready, and everything else, that's going to come my way, I'm just going to treat it with respect, and jump in 100%. Yeah. That's my rant. That's my rant.
But you're again 100% correct. A lot of people, when they're kind of working with the law of attraction or whatever we want to call it, they forget about the action piece. It's the intention with action. You can't just stand still. You have to develop. You have to continue getting better. And you said, you're ready for that next step, and the universe is going to help you get there. Me, I was reading for some guest stars and some real serious stuff on TV. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't have that feeling because I haven't been in those huge sets. I haven't been in those environments where I feel comfortable. Right now, I feel very comfortable doing a co-star. And I haven't gotten to that level yet. I've been auditioning for kind of the Chicago shows. Co-star, I'm there. Smaller guest star, I think so. It's that point, right? So the universe is not going to throw you into something that you're not ready for, which is all intermixed with the other stuff that we were talking about. But yeah, it's really.
But let me challenge that. Let me challenge that too, because maybe it will. Maybe it will. Because I'll tell you something else too. Is your honesty on the subject, right? Mm-hmm. The honesty to be like, maybe I'm not ready. The honesty of like, maybe I could handle a guest star, maybe not a lead. I mean, the thing is I think, or I've seen that people can work with that. Do you know what I mean? Like I've seen that people can work, because then if someone hands you a lead, Alan, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. That's the feeling. That is an amazing feeling. Yeah. And I think that if someone actually gave you that with the honesty that you have on that subject, I think you'd be okay.
I'd love to get to that point and see, and we'll find out. I remember a very important thing happened to me that made me feel a lot more comfortable as an actor. is I accidentally, I thought I kind of booked the ComEd commercial, Commonwealth Edison here in Chicago, and it ended up that I booked the extra. I didn't realize it. I didn't read enough, and I booked it. I'm like, yeah, oh, got it. But I already booked it. I was not going to decline anything, so I went to the set, and then I sat and I acted along with I was in the background. You could barely see my face, but I was in those scenes, so I understood a lot more of how everything is laid out in the big environment, as opposed to kind of the smaller stuff that I was working on, because at that point I was doing student films. So as you're graduating, like being on that set, there is no substitute for experience. You have to have the ability, but you also have to have experience, especially in those environments where time is money and huge sets, and you need to be on. You need to know and own your shit. So
Yeah.
I think that's also where it's coming from, of realizing acting wise, I think I can handle it, but I don't know what I don't know. So I'd like to see a little bit of it before getting in there. So yeah, I'll let the universe decide. Um,
Sounds
I
good.
I I want to ask you, because you're very, again, as you're writing, and I am a writer. I wrote a couple of books, not just poetry, even though poetry is my first love, and that's how I started writing. Um, as you're writing, if you had to write down 3 words that define you, what would they be?
3 words that is like
The first things that come to mind are usually the best ones.
mm, insecure,
Yeah.
I almost had one there and then I lost it. Let me see. So I think it would be like, it's like insecure, sensitive, and what's like hungry.
Mhm.
Hmm. What about you?
It's a very good question. Let me think about that too. Right now, and this is right now. Um, it's more than one word, but seeking balance. So that's where I am, of trying to find that balance, and I'm getting closer to it. Analytical and hopeful. Those would be the 3 for me right now. Cool. I should do that on a daily basis. That would be a good self check-in. I like that. But
Yeah.
I want to zoom out for a second. I want kind of people who are watching this to see that we all present as certain things. People, when they look at us, are getting impressions of what we are based on what we look like, based on their past associations, based on the energy that we're bringing. The energy that you're bringing is, if people see you without getting to know you first, they would see somebody who is physically strong, somebody who has a strong energy overall, and to learn that you would categorize yourself right now as insecure just goes to show that we as people need to be really careful with each other, because we never know what somebody is going through, or what is behind whatever that veil that we are presenting to the world, as in Robin's case, unfortunately. But I find that very, very interesting, and thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. I liked the I don't know, maybe you relate to this, but most of my favorite characters that I watch, um, like, when you watch Gary or you watch, some great Robin Williams, obviously, um, it's the more I learn about acting, the more I realize that mistakes are okay. Mistakes are like where you find everything. It's that fearlessness to just blindly jump into something. Maybe it's been calculated. Maybe it's maybe it won't even work for the scene, but just to because I think that people are just so unpredictable. Like after working with them for so long as well, like people are just so unpredictable. And any great actor, I find it's their mistakes that I'm really attracted to in their work. Like it's always the mistake. It's the way they flub a line when they start to feel something, or like if you watch somebody fairly aggressive, like Tom Hardy. You watch Tom Hardy, and it's not when he explodes, but it's the seconds before that. It's the mistake of like, oh my God, I'm gonna do it, like, and there's just something in that I find so fascinating, with that human condition, the insecurity, the even I found usually when I'm stuttering in a scene, when mistakes are happening, that's usually when I'm really present. Especially if you're a fan of Meisner, and that person, like when you completely draw your focus outwardly onto somebody else, there's all this stuff that starts happening, and all this behavior, all this beautiful behavior, and I think that's where the best acting happens. Just in those mistakes, just the fearlessness to like be present, to actually be present, to not act a line looking cool or like any of that stuff. And it's funny because you watch, some TV shows you watch now and you're like, holy smokes, man, like I don't even know what that is. Like, and it's so it kind of mechanical, and it's so, but for me, I don't know about you, but for me, like in the rawest form is like I love those mistakes. I love when someone is like messing up because it's something I relate to. I am like a pretty insecure person. I am, a pretty sensitive guy. And some of the roles I think you see me and you're like, man, that guy's aggressive, like that is, but like all that aggression comes from somewhere, and that always has to be underneath whatever you're playing. Otherwise, it's just not very good. Do you agree? Yeah.
I do. I absolutely do. And I love, speaking of comedy, I love when I see people break because they find things funny and they're trying not to break. And you see that moment where they're almost about to crack up and they kind of catch themselves. I love that. Like people, for whatever reason, are not kind to Adam Sandler because they don't, like what he does. I love Adam Sandler, and I love what he does because it is a beautiful formula of bring the people that you love to work with and have fun together
Hmm.
because it's the heart with the fun that allows people to just be. And I love that from a pure comedy perspective. So absolutely, those mistakes are they're showing the humanity, and that's what I love. I completely agree with
Yeah. I also think anything like that too. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. I
you.
think it doesn't matter like where you're at. You can put on an Adam Sandler movie and watch it,
Yeah. Mhm.
and I think you'll be entertained. Like even
Yeah.
if Sandler's like kind of one of those guys I watch, and then he does, what was that one he did like a year and a half ago? It was something.
Uh,
What was
yeah,
that called?
something with Gems, where he played the New York.
Yeah, he's very
Uncut
versatile.
Gems.
Yeah, so good. And I think the thing that is so amazing about the movies that he makes,
Yeah.
like you can be anyone, you watch it, you're entertained from beginning to end. There's a story. Um, and it's just like working with your friends
Yeah.
and having fun. And the same, I'm a huge fan of The Office. Like I've got, hang on a second, I'll show you, like
Yeah.
this is like writing partner, right? So like when I'm having a bad day, just what do you think, right? you know, and I love The Office. I've watched, and it's crazy because you see the characters I play, they're like bad dudes, but like when I come home, you know, we watch, you know, through the pandemic, we watched every episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Office, you name it. I just used to watch those on repeat. And you know, Rainn Wilson, you know, in my opinion, is one of the best actors around. Like he's just
Yeah.
full of that character that he plays, and he's always stretching and kind of and growing, and he's a fascinating. I mean, everybody on that show. Krasinski was like an amazing writer. He's like, you look at some of the work he's gone on to do. Carell, obviously, like all those. I just love comedy, and unfortunately, I don't get to do enough of it. But one day.
I'm in the same boat because for some reason when people, and usually I'm shaved, but for some reason when people look at me, they're thinking, oh, there is a neighbor who looks friendly but probably will kill you at the end of the movie. Yeah, let's hire him to do drama. I'm like,
What a
I'm I'm
yeah.
the, I'm the goofy uncle. You know, that's more me. If we're doing traditional sitcom, that's me. I'm not the
Mm,
guy who's going to kill you, but thank you for letting me play a lot of drama. I want to do more comedy.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um,
Like,
yeah.
last question for you, as I
Mm,
know we're kind of you and I could talk for a lot longer, but usually the audience wants me to keep things to a some level of quorum. So knowing kind of what you've been through already, um, if you had a chance to go back in time and talk to that young kid who's just starting acting before you met Robin, what would you say to him?
mm. I would say um, follow your gut. Just follow your instincts. You know, and I think that's, you know, when you've been doing this a little bit longer, that's something you and I probably understand a little more. But I think it would just be follow your instincts.
Perfect. And I
Yeah.
think that's the name of the show. Follow your instincts. The name of this episode. It's either yeah, I think we'll go with that or something else that'll come to me after that.
Cool.
Thank you, Stephen. I really appreciate you jumping on, and thanks for being so open. I was hoping you would be this way, and I'm so happy that you didn't disappoint.
Good. Glad you enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks to everybody for tuning in into another episode of Let's Dive In. Um, Actors are a fascinating bunch, and I love actors. My favorite people are actors, and I just got to speak to another one of them. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Talk to you next time.